Hello, friends, and welcome back to another edition of our NBA Insider video live stream notebook right here on the one and only Bleacher Report app and also available on YouTube as well. My name is Jake Fischer, your resident NBA Insider for all things BR, and we have another loaded slate of news and notes from around the association coming to you Thursday, September 25th at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, right before the bulk of NBA teams officially get going in training camp on Monday, the 29th. But a ton of teams have already started to have their media day briefings. Some teams have had just like a lead executive or their general manager and their head coach already meet with the media. We've got early takeaways from all of that starting in Los Angeles, where JJ Redick, Rob Pelinka, the Lakers president of basketball operations, announced that JJ Redick has signed a contract extension after the original 4-year, $32 million deal that first brought the longtime veteran sharpshooter to his first head coaching job on the Lakers sidelines. And as you see it right there, they went 50-32 in that first season. And Rob Pelinka puts his money where his mouth is in terms of really backing Redick as the long-term coach of the Los Angeles Lakers with kind of an unprecedented situation. It's not like the Lakers went to the Western Conference Finals or had a very, very deep playoff run that puts, an obvious, like Rick Carlisle getting extended in Indiana or Jason Kidd pushing to get an extension in Dallas back when the Mavericks reached the finals in 2024. But you have LA, who, of course, had a major win, probably the biggest win of their offseason and of the next foreseeable future, getting Luka Doncic to agree to a 3-year contract extension. That now has kind of changed all the calculus in Los Angeles, right? Of course, they were always expecting to have Luka around long term when they made the big shocking deal of trading Anthony Davis to Dallas for Doncic. But until Luka really signed on that dotted line, the Lakers were a bit reticent towards making significant upgrades on their roster. And now that he is secure for the foreseeable future after a pretty after a pretty successful stint in Eurobasket, the newfound conditioning that's taken internet by storm, the Lakers have already started to put out some messaging that they're going to be more active and aggressive in adding two-way wings, like we've talked about in the past, with Andrew Wiggins being highlighted as an ideal target for them if Miami were to ever make him available during this season. So it makes sense along those lines as well that JJ Redick is up and extended and going to be locked in as Luka's head coach for the long term here now. Former teammates in Dallas, and I think their connection was a big piece in Luka's comfortability getting to LA to begin with. People around him and his camp had been mentioning how it was just such a jarring experience to be surprised like that, uprooted, going from market to market, and having that familiar face and someone who used to be in a locker room with him and talk shit with him, and just a former player that knows his tendencies and whatnot, has been as big a integral piece as anything to make Luka comfortable in Los Angeles. So you've got JJ and Luka in lockstep moving forward. Of course, the big what happens with LeBron will loom over Los Angeles throughout this entire season, as he's in an expiring contract year that we have not seen for LeBron ever in his career. He's always done the 1+1 stuff, and the Lakers were not interested in talking extension with him. And also Austin Reeves is tracking to be one of the bigger unrestricted free agents a year from now as well. So all that is going to be looming over this season in terms of future contract status and what have you. But you've got JJ, you've got Luka, and they have kind of structured a rotation with Marcus Smart and DeAndre Ayton and Jake LaRavia to add to this already kind of playoff tested core that did make the Western Conference Finals 2 years prior. So this is a group that really does have expectations of competing at the top of the Western Conference. And it's going to be a tough task, though, for anyone to do that, being that everyone from the reigning champs to the New Orleans Pelicans have a lot of expectations to be contending for at least a play-in berth in a very, very deep Western Conference. But I think the biggest, not just JJ Redick's contract extension, to me, the biggest development that we've seen so far from the early media day operations has been Zion Williamson's dramatic physical transformation. We haven't been given, at least to what I saw and read, we have not been given, Zion lost a specific number of pounds, but you see it there. His 2024 media day picture compared to his 2025 media day picture. The difference is not the beard to the goatee. It's the definition, it's the muscle mass, it's the body fat percentage that Zion told reporters was a big part of Joe Dumars and his new regime taking over after David Griffin coming to Zion and saying, we're going to be holding you accountable here. And he talked about doing different types of workouts, from boxing to getting on the football field. I talked to a member of the Pelicans coaching staff today who said a huge aspect of this all was diet, and Zion working with a personal chef and really improving his dietary overall guidelines and restrictions, which is something that has been an issue for him ever since he got to New Orleans. The early talk that I was having with Pelicans officials when he was injured, forget what lower body injury it was because he's had so many injuries at this point in his career, but whatever the initial injury was that kept him out of his rookie season, I remember just hearing stories of a Herculean appetite for Zion in the beginning of his professional tenure with New Orleans. So for him to come out in this type of shape and talk so candidly about taking responsibility for his conditioning and how great it feels to feel great, the Pelicans themselves are optimistic about what their chances are to compete in the West. I don't think they have delusions of grandeur and think that they're going to compete for a championship, especially being that they are down DeJounte Murray, their top guard, from the very, very beginning of this season. The expectation remains that he's going to be out for at least the first juncture of this year, and probably at the earliest, early 2026 in January, for DeJounte Murray to make his return to New Orleans. That was part of why the Pelicans front office, which brought in Troy Weaver to be the number 2 under Joe Dumars. Weaver was a major figure in the Wizards front office after he was the Detroit Pistons general manager, and Weaver was integral to my understanding in the trade that brought Jordan Poole into New Orleans to help with the point guard responsibilities as DeJounte Murray recovers from his torn Achilles. And there's a lot of excitement in New Orleans as well about what the rookie guard Jeremiah Fears will be able to do in more of a, as of now, it seems he's projected to have more of a reserve guard role behind Jordan Poole, in addition to Jose Alvarado in the Pelicans backcourt. But no matter what, the straw that is going to stir the Pelicans drink, the smoothie in Smoothie King Center, is Zion Williamson. And if he can be anything close to the surefire all-star status that he had been at previous points in his career, when healthy, when fully optimized, and there is a lot of excitement right now, not just from what we've seen online, but from me getting on the phone and talking to several people in that organization, the positivity and optimism is very, very real. So we'll see if that translates to actual results. And if he can hit that 60, 65 game threshold that he has not come close to hitting in his career, that's what New Orleans is hoping for. Can he just play 65 games? They're not expecting 82. They're not expecting him to start and be out there every single night. But for someone who has missed more games than he's played in his career, that would mark a major step forward for Zion and New Orleans. The Sixers have been feeling optimistic and positive about Joel Embiid being back in the building and his own skinny self out and getting shots up. And they posted some picture with VJ Edgecombe holding up a WWE belt. And then today, the Sixers had a pretty devastating, another just Groundhog Day, as my colleague Tim Bontemps, who broke the news, said about Jared McCain suffering a torn UCL ligament in his right thumb during the last workout before the team's media day tomorrow, because the Sixers are taking a preseason trip to play in Abu Dhabi. So that's why they meet with the media tomorrow ahead of Monday's media day around the league. And of course, this comes after Jared McCain suffered a torn MCL that ended what was a runaway Rookie of the Year campaign for McCain before he got hurt. So it's just another preseason injury, from Ben Simmons to Zaire Smith to all Joel Embiid's setbacks to just Nerlens Noel having setbacks. It's just something that Sixers fans are far too familiar with. And it also is going to have a major impact on Quentin Grimes's. I mean, it is the context that I think Quentin Grimes's side needs in order to get a little final push to get closer to the salary range that they've been hoping for all along. So the big difference between Quentin Grimes and Jonathan Kuminga's restricted free agency situations has been the fact that Philadelphia has not really needed Quentin Grimes to the same degree that the Warriors need Jonathan Kuminga, both on the floor and as a roster building asset. Things really changed for Quentin Grimes and Philadelphia when VJ Edgecombe became the Sixers' choice at number 3 overall. So now that Jared McCain eliminates another body, another young player who the Sixers theoretically believe has a higher ceiling than Quentin Grimes, the Philadelphia is going to need to win games. Like, they are absolutely feeling some type of pressure to maximize this Joel Embiid, Paul George, Tyrese Maxey trio, while George and Joel Embiid are both past 30 and on maximum contracts. So without a key expected rotation piece for, the rough estimate based on online doctors is that the typical UCL tear is a 3 to 4 month recovery. Let's just say it's 3. September 25th, that puts him out right around November 25th, December 25th. I mean, that's a tough blow for a team that already is going to be likely without Joel Embiid and Paul George every single night, just like was the expectation a year ago before they were out every single night with injury. But you just have to expect there's going to be similar load management, minute management, second night of back-to-back resting for Embiid and Paul George respectively throughout the beginning stages of this season. You're down your backup point guard and a really solid player in Jared McCain. You would hope, if you're Quentin Grimes and Quentin Grimes' agent David Bauman, that this significant loss for the time being would benefit Quentin Grimes and his quest right now in receiving a 1-year balloon payment and not having to take the qualifying offer for this upcoming year. Because the way I've understood it from talking, I spoke to David Bauman, Quentin Grimes' agent, this afternoon, and my colleague Gina Mizell broke the news earlier today that the best offer the Sixers finally made to Quentin Grimes so far this season, or this offseason, came this week, of a 4-year, $39 million offer, which pales in comparison to the 20 AAV, the roughly $20 million plus that Quentin Grimes has been hoping to achieve all summer long. The sides are so far apart, and we're always so far apart, to my understanding, that's why Philly didn't even really bring a serious formal offer to the table until this week, because they knew how far apart these sides are. So the middle ground at this juncture that these two sides could theoretically reach between now and the October 1st deadline for Quentin Grimes to accept his qualifying offer is a 1-year deal, at least north of the mid-level exception. To my understanding, Philadelphia is willing to go that high, a 1-year deal north of the $12 million mid-level exception. Grimes' side is going to be hoping for something closer to that $20 million AAV on a 1-year quote unquote balloon payment. So does losing Jared McCain for the foreseeable future aid Quentin Grimes' efforts in being an important piece of this rotation to get that salary structure that he is looking for on a 1-year deal? It seems like there's more of a chance than there was earlier today. We'll see. This has been a bit of a staring contest, just like everything happening in Golden State. The Sixers, I don't believe at this point, are amenable to moving back that October 1st deadline, but Grimes' side certainly is. So we'll see what happens. For now, Quentin Grimes is not expected to be attending Media Day tomorrow, and he is not preparing to be on the plane heading to Abu Dhabi for the Sixers preseason games overseas while this all remains unresolved. But everything could change. There was an email with a rundown of everything, just confirming the state of affairs between Quentin Grimes' side and the Sixers last night. And they were expected to regroup at some point today, even after this news broke about McCain's injury. So we are awaiting to find out how that could impact Grimes' negotiations. But for now, even before McCain's injury, and especially after, the ballpark for Grimes and getting him actually signed and on the roster and in the building in Philadelphia is figuring out some type of 1-year deal north of the qualifying offer, because the sides are so far apart on any long-term agreement. I don't think there's going to be a long-term deal done here. I think we're going to get a 1-year contract, and it's just going to be a matter of how much more than the mid-level exception will it be. In Golden State, the scenario, like we talked about, is a bit more dire for the Warriors and a bit more frustrating for the Warriors, I think, because the Warriors have made various offers to Aaron Turner and Jonathan Kuminga, his representative, from a 2-year, $45 million deal to this new 3-year deal that's worth $72.5 million. Some other structures that have been thrown around. And Kuminga still has his own $8 million qualifying offer that he could take. But Kuminga's side has been operating from this place of belief that I do agree with, that they have some type of leverage, some type of strength in their position to hold out for as much as they can get, because the Warriors, they need Jonathan Kuminga on a tradable salary. They need him to be a young 22-year-old two-way wing that they don't really have on the roster. And if it doesn't work out, they need him on a salary north of $20 million that they could trade for a replacement, just like they ended up flipping a bunch of pieces to get Jimmy Butler a year ago. So Kuminga being on an $8 million qualifying offer compared to him making somewhere around $25 million in average annual value would be a significant loss for Golden State in terms of the ability to match salary and bring back significant pieces in a trade. And also, it would set the stage for Kuminga on the qualifying offer to truly walk and give Golden State nothing in return a year from now when he becomes an unrestricted free agent. The relationship, I think, would essentially be done on the spot once Kuminga, if he were to accept the qualifying offer, because it'd be so far gone. It would have to be such a magical year of him buying in and the team making a deep playoff run and him getting all the touches and opportunities and the stats that he's been wanting to show he can do with a consistent role and consistent playing time and what have you. But Kuminga's side has also been, to my understanding from talking to both sides, Kuminga's side and Golden State, they've been so principled in the fact that they want a player option in whatever deal that Kuminga signs that is not his qualifying offer. So if it's Golden State won't do that though. Golden State's 2-year deal, team option on the second. Their 3-year deal, team option on the third. And Kuminga's camp is just coming from this 0-1 binary scale of we need a player option in there. If Golden State was willing to come back with a straight deal, fully guaranteed, no team option, I am of the belief from my conversations that Kuminga would take that deal either in a 2-year situation or a 3-year situation. But if there's an option in the contract, Kuminga's side is requiring it to be a player option, and the Warriors side is requiring it to be a team option. So that still remains the standoff here. And I'm getting a little curious how this is going to play out because I don't think Kuminga's side at this juncture knows exactly what they're going to do. I think we still have 4 or 5 days before training camp really officially opens. The Warriors would definitely prefer that Kuminga makes his decision before this October 1st deadline because they have also, as Warriors fans are very well aware, they haven't made a single move in free agency because they've been waiting to know what their salary structures look like below the first apron as it pertains to how much Kuminga is going to be making. Now, I know there was some reporting yesterday about the Kings resuming their trade interest in a sign and trade for Kuminga. I really don't think there's any opportunity for a deal to get done there. Their only really offer has been based around Malik Monk and a 2030 conditional first-round pick, which the Warriors would want an unprotected pick, and they don't want Malik Monk. I don't think they want Malik Monk really as a player, and they definitely don't want his contract. And that's part of all this Kuminga team option stuff too. The Warriors don't really have anyone on their books beyond the next year's 26-27 season. They only have Steph, Jimmy Butler, and Draymond signed for those 2 years, and they want to maintain optionality and flexibility beyond the 26-27 campaign and not lock themselves into guaranteed money beyond that. So a 3-year fully guaranteed deal for Kuminga or a 3-year deal with a player option on the third year for Kuminga would put money on Golden State's books that they're not ready to do that right now. The same goes with Malik Monk having a player option for the 27-28 season, which is one season after the 26-27 campaign that all of Steph, Jimmy, and Draymond's deals run through. So that's another aspect of all this as well. And we're going to see how it all comes together. There, to my understanding, is no next meeting, next offer, next phone call, whatever scheduled. It just kind of we're waiting and seeing what's going to happen. There is some hope, I think, on Kuminga's side and Quentin Grimes' side as well, that knock on wood, you don't want anyone to get injured. But if there were to be another type of Fred VanVleet, someone's out for the year who is expected to be a starter injury that comes up here, maybe that's a last-minute variable that could change opportunities for sign and trades for both of those players. But the injury in Houston that came out on Monday, that Fred VanVleet tore his ACL in a offseason mini camp scrimmage situation that the Rockets players have been doing for some time now, isn't, I think, going to dramatically change the Rockets roster. It's going to be a big loss to lose a absolute stud of a locker room presence, a champion in Fred VanVleet, who was someone that Ime Udoka and that front office targeted in free agency, wanted to come bring in alongside Dylan Brooks and establish a newfound culture away from the tanking of the years past. Losing him is going to be a blow, but the Rockets don't have much wiggle room below whatever apron they're at. I don't remember if it's the first or the second. Apologies. The only real business that's still up for grabs in Houston are the extensions for Tari Eason and Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant will get done at some point in time. Tari Eason, I'm still needing to really wait and dive into all the rookie scale extension stuff that's going to be coming up here in the next couple of weeks before the season starts. But for the Rockets, I think it's a big loss no matter what. as a player, as a person, but it's also really going to put a major microscope under Reed Shepherd, this number 3 overall pick who barely cracked Ime Udoka's rotation a year ago. What's he going to look like now where there is not a clear-cut lead ball handler on this roster? While there's also plenty of people in that building who fully believe that the Rockets will be most maximized if Amen Thompson has the ball in his hands as some type of de facto point guard as well. So that to me is the most interesting ramification of all this. We hope Fred VanVleet can recover quickly and what have you. That's goes without being said. But that's the reality, what's next standpoint, the Rockets already had a lot of excitement about what Amen Thompson could be with the ball in his hands, ripping rebounds off the defensive glass and getting out in transition and pushing the pace. And now he'll have Kevin Durant as an option to spray the ball out to, in addition to Jabari Smith and what have you. Alperen Şengün's run to Eurobasket or through Eurobasket was something that a lot of NBA decision makers and talent evaluators were flagging as a potential sign of another breakout year for someone who already has garnered all-star attention. So the expectations are certainly high in Houston, where the Rockets basically ran wire to wire, number 2 in the West behind Oklahoma City all regular season. They really took Golden State to, the wire in their first round matchup with the Warriors for a lot of those guys' first playoff runs. And one of the bigger strugglers in that playoff series was Jalen Green. He's out the door now for Kevin Durant. So the Rockets, I think, are going to be they are sad about Fred, but I think they're going to be very experimental to see what type of opportunity can come from this now. What can it mean for Amen Thompson, and what can it mean for Reed Shepherd? Tyler Hero is also going to be out for a little bit as well. That is our final news segment of today's show. He is going to be out for at least the start of the season, where the Miami Heat are going to be in a very, very interesting kind of like middle of the pack year. Like the Heat, from a lot of my conversations, don't really have major expectations to run things to the top of the Eastern Conference. They've made some salary cutting moves. That's why teams like the Lakers, like we talked about at the top of this, are a bit excited or hopeful that Andrew Wiggins could become available. But Tyler Hero being out around 8 weeks with ankle surgery puts him at, a late November, Thanksgiving possible return. And by that point in time, I mean, I don't know how much firepower Miami really is going to have without their only real all-star level creator. Norm Powell is going to get plenty of opportunity now, but does that just showcase him for trade scenarios while he's on an expiring contract that the Clippers did not want to come to a long-term contract extension with him, which prompted that deal? Which brings me back to Hero, because Tyler Hero is going to be extension eligible, or will be extension eligible, on October 1st. And with his injury, he's had a series of lower body injury stuff throughout his career. What does this mean for those extension talks? That's something that, a cap-minded NBA executive brought up to me today on the phone. But we were kind of in a scenario where this Miami team was shifting to a Tyler Hero, Bam Adebayo operation, right? That was part of the Jimmy Butler angst a year ago when Miami would not extend him, and he was standing in the corner and throwing hissy fits about it. Now that Hero's out of the equation, they're saying for now is going to be out 8 weeks. What if it's longer? It's another element of uncertainty for where Miami is currently going, and they're clearly in some type of salary, optimization, flexibility standpoint, kind of waiting to be free agency players again in the near future. So Hero being hurt puts all of that, I think, in further question about what Miami's immediate future looks like as they continue to plan for the long term, more so than competing right now. That's kind of the sense out of South Beach at this juncture. And at this juncture, we are done with today's news and notes from around the league. There's definitely opportunities for things to change over the weekend with the RFA guys as we get closer to training camp opening. So stay tuned. You will be getting Bleacher Report app push notifications if anything changes. But for now, we will be coming to you back again next week, next Thursday, for another NBA Insider live stream video notebook. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a good weekend.